Welcome to Ham Smarter with Vince VE6LK. Today I am going to show you a more in-depth view of the coolest radio called the HF Signals zBitx. This is a QRP radio with built-in microprocessors, a waterfall, and a touch screen. And as you can see, I'm holding it in my hand. It is small. It weighs under a pound with the two 18650 batteries that you supply, and it drives on 6 to 9 volts. It does FT8 built-in CW, phone, and a whole pile of other things. Stay tuned. All right, so let me cover a few other areas that I haven't yet, to do with some physical aspects of the radio. So let's take a peek at the overhead camera. So the first thing to be aware of is that this radio has no power switch. By plugging in power, you have turned it on. And it has no shutdown command in the Raspberry Pi yet. We've been asking for it, the users have. And so that means that when you unplug it, one day your Raspberry Pi memory card may become corrupt. So you're going to have to read up on Raspberry Pi to figure out how to create a clone of that card. It's really easy to do. It took me 5 minutes of reading to figure it out. I've never done it before, and so if I can do it, anybody can do it. And then it took 20 minutes for the built-in routine to run. I took that memory card that I wrote to out, and I've taped it on the inside of the lid with some Kapton tape so that it's always available for me. To get to that memory card, if you ever need to swap it out, you just loosen the two screws, one at the top and one at the bottom, and then this whole plastic end comes off with the battery holder on it, and the memory card is right there available for you. So the other thing to note is the radio works on 6 to 9 volts DC. It is center positive. Please pay attention to your polarization of the power you put into it. Don't put those batteries in the holder backwards. It's easy to do. Make sure you're putting the batteries in the right way, and make sure you're feeding this the correct polarity, because while it does have a reverse polarity protection diode in it, it does not have a fuse, and the trace goes from one end of the circuit board to the other, and if you reverse polarize it, that means that trace becomes the fuse, and you're going to let out some magic smoke, and it's not going to smell very good. Let's keep going and take a look at the connectors. I showed you the CAT port earlier on. That's a micro USB connector. You press and hold the VFO while you plug in this CAT port without power applied, and then you can upload a firmware file, which is one of the two software updates. There's a firmware and a software, as it's called. This is the firmware port. It's also for CAT control of the radio. I have not begun to experiment with that. There's a USB port where you can plug in a keyboard and a mouse. I have a small micro USB to USB-A hub that I connect that stuff with. And this is a mini HDMI connector, not the micro size. There are 3 sizes of HDMIs. This one's smaller than your conventional home TV. There's also a port, or your monitor. There's also a port for the key, a microphone, and earphones or external speaker. So that's something to be aware of. The next thing to be aware of is that the base aluminum plate is about 1/10 of an inch thick. It's actually 0.08 inches thick, and it's aluminum. And this is where it also acts as the heat sink. Now, I've added these rubber feet on because I didn't want it to slide around my bench. These are polyurethane with 3D brand adhesive, except no substitutes. Get the good stuff. You can see the serial number sticker here, and then you can see the screw that holds in place the final transistor and the 2 power regulators that are there, so the heat gets dissipated off of this back panel really, really well. Now, in some modes like FT8, where we're driving the processor hard and we're driving the finals hard, that plate gets really hot, and some people have complained it is too hot to touch. I have not seen that in my own radio. I dare say yet I'm not a heavy FT8 user. There might come a day when that happens. So The next thing I want to show you is that the case is 3D printed, and it's a really nice finish on this case. You can see sort of the pebbled look of it there as I move it back and forth. So it's real pretty for a 3D case. I wish I could get my 3D printer to do that. Instead, what I did was, because the 3D print files are available for download off HF Signals via HF Signals website, and I think they're on their GitHub, which is linked off the HF Signals website. You can download your own, and I modified it by embossing in their name and the radio, and then my call sign in CW at the bottom. The other thing that I did was I took somebody else's design off of Thingiverse, and this was a knob for a G90, and I sliced it to be thinner. And I reset the hole diameters a little bit, and I took the shaft that's there and I cut it down and filed it so that it didn't sit as high above the radio, because the knob that this radio ships with is kind of tall, and it didn't have a finger dimple in it, which is something I like to do when I'm scanning the band up and down. So the 3D printed case is really quite nice. So pay attention to your voltage, pay attention to reverse polarity. Watch out that the radio doesn't get too hot, and know that you can modify the case for it if that's your thing to do. This is kind of an open source radio, right? It's an experimenter's radio. Have some fun with it. I've really enjoyed it in the time I've had it. Okay, so I've talked about, in no particular order, CW, FT8, and sideband, and phone. AM operates the same as sideband does when you look at the on-screen controls. What else does it do? It does some digital modes, which I have not begun to explore yet. It has a two-tone mode, which is a good diagnostic mode. That's explained in the manual. What else do you need to know about it? It goes through the 18650 batteries very quickly. It draws half an ampere when it is idle, because there are two microprocessors and a lovely touchscreen running. So this is a power-hungry little radio. I have not yet begun to experiment with different ways to power it. There's lots of discussion on the groups.io list, which I've linked below here, with hobbyists like me and with the creators of the radio chiming in. Of course, this radio has a great history with all the zBitx radios that came before it, and so those that have gotten zBitx radios are finding this really simple to use. I haven't found a terrible learning curve on picking up and learning to use this. It's been really easy.